Public school is dying. Teachers are leaving at record numbers. Kids can't even read at grade level. And when they graduate, they're competing with ChatGPT and robots for jobs that no longer exist. But there's a better alternative, and that's homeschooling. But is homeschooling actually better than public school? This is one of the biggest questions I see asked whenever I search up homeschooling on the internet, whether it's YouTube or TikTok. People are just trying to weigh the pros and cons of both homeschool and public school, and if it's a better option for their child. And nowadays, with all the chaos going on in public school, parents really want to know if they should make the switch now. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why homeschooling is better than public school, but also some things that public school actually did right. And near the end of this video, I'll share something most people don't realize: how homeschooling gave me the tools to become an entrepreneur as a teen. So make sure to stick to the end of this video for that. Hey YouTube, my name's Obina, and if you like this video, we would really appreciate if you leave a like and subscribe. Let's get straight into it. First, let's talk about the problem with public school. I was in public school all the way up until 8th grade, and my grades were pretty good academically. I would usually hover around A's and B's, complete assignments on time, do my homework, but I always hated homework, to be honest. So I would say I was doing pretty well in school for the most part. But after a while of doing it for like 9 years on end, from going to the bus stop, waking up early, while that might seem like a normal routine, we're still going to a place where I'm doing pretty well in, but I don't want to do any of this stuff when I grow up. I don't think I'll need algebra when I'm trying to pay off my taxes. Now, I know taxes might take some basic math and some organization, but at the end of the day, do we really need algebra 2 to figure out taxes? And the answer is probably not. A lot of the things they teach, especially in middle school, I don't see what purpose it would serve for most professions later on. It just feels like we're just getting grades as like video game points just so we could graduate to the next level and then get a certification that will then allow us to get the job that we want. Come to find out, a lot of the stuff that they taught us in school doesn't even give us the qualifications for the job. And then we have to enter at entry-level positions and learn and build our way up after we've gotten the degree, when we could have been learning that stuff in middle school and high school already. Like, why wait? Why do we need this stuff? Why do we need Common Core? So even back then, it didn't make sense to me at all, because it felt like, why am I doing all of this? Why do I have to do work at school, then work at home, as well as additional projects and tests, when at the end of the day, none of this knowledge is going to matter for the field I want to go in? And I'm sure a lot of students can relate to this. Again, I stopped going to school until 8th grade. I don't even know what it's like in high school. The amount of homework, the stress, some of you might even have jobs on top of that. Why do we need all this stress when it's not even contributing to something good? And again, there are some good aspects to school, like the socialization, but for the majority of the time, for the general US public education system, and we're talking about the average here, we find that it doesn't even set students up to get even the most basic level jobs. What if some of us don't even like jobs? What if some of us want to be entrepreneurs? Does school prepare you to do that? Well, school does not teach you that until you basically reach college age. Why can't you learn some of that as a teen or even a preteen? Why do we have to wait till college and spend thousands of dollars and go into debt for years when even some of that knowledge can be found online or on ChatGPT? And to be honest, public school isn't broken. It was designed this way, designed to create workers, not leaders. We had to find a different path, one that revolved around true education. And that brings us to homeschool. What did homeschooling give me that public school didn't? Homeschooling gave me freedom, not just in time and activities, but also freedom to do what I wanted to do. While science and social studies isn't that bad, it's not something I was really passionate about doing. And learning about that wasn't really going to help me be what I really wanted to be, which was a writer. Now, you could argue that language arts technically does teach you writing, so that could help you be a writer, and you would be right. But up to a certain point, and I would say around like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I would say you would just be better off taking action and just starting to write your own book. Like for me, Homeschooling gave me the freedom to start writing my own book early with my sister. I've always wanted to be a writer since I was little, and I didn't really have the time to do that while I was still in school. I always had this idea for a book similar to Harry Potter, but it was more with a theme around protecting the truth. So it was both mystery and fantasy. And school didn't really give me the time nor the knowledge to do that. But in homeschool, I could just get started on that project right away. There's no reason to wait because that's my assessment. It's a long-term project. Start the book and finish the book. Especially during COVID when everything shut down, people were like online doing education and stuff. We took the summer of 2020 to start crafting out the idea around our book. Originally, it was like a board game, but we turned it into something new over the course of the last 4 years that we've been homeschooled. Homeschool also gave me the time to explore things that really mattered, like money, mindset, personal development. Those kinds of things aren't really heavily taught in public school. And why is that the case? Aren't these things students are going to run into eventually? Wouldn't it be good for them to know early? That way they don't have to go through the pitfalls that adults normally go through once they graduate. But with homeschooling, you can design a curriculum around those things that are important. There's no reason to wait until you graduate or get a degree. Just do it now. And I feel like that's one thing about homeschool that's not really stated that much. The fact that there's really no limit to what you can learn. You're not really following a common core rigid system. While you can teach your child those types of things, you can also branch out and teach them more things that would actually help them later in the future, something school never does. Homeschool allowed me the opportunity to get into entrepreneurship and to pursue my passion. Without homeschool, I never would have learned about personal development at an early age. Without homeschool, I never would have started investing in the stock market at an early age. Without homeschool, I never would have started writing my book. I would have waited until after I got a degree and then had to write it during a 9-to-5 or part-time, which would be a lot more stressful. But why not do it now? Kids already have the luxury of time. So why would we stay in a system that only benefits itself and only takes away from the student? It doesn't really teach. It only tells you to memorize things and spit it back at them. And they call that learning. And I'm grateful that I got out of public school at the time that I did, especially before high school, because the honest truth is, public school is the easiest way to get stuck in the rat race. And that's why I think homeschool is superior. I fully believe that homeschooling is the gateway for students to get into entrepreneurship. And the younger you start, the better it is. But you're probably wondering, public school can't be that bad, right? Like, I know it's not the best, but how will my child still succeed? Don't they need socialization? Well, that brings me to my third point. What public school actually did right. Now, I would say there are a few things that public school does do right. For number one, the socialization aspect, yes. It's great for kids to connect around people their age, especially a group of kids, because they see people from different walks of life. But I feel like you can incorporate the same exact thing into homeschool. If you travel a lot and you do homeschool groups and homeschool co-ops, then you can still translate that same exact thing. I just might think it's a little harder, but I think it's definitely doable for homeschoolers as well. And another thing would be its common core education, but I would say up until like 3rd or like 4th grade. I feel like the common core education is good, but only up to like a certain age. And I mean like 7 and 8 years old. And then after that, I feel like the child can learn probably half common core and the other half can be around the passion that they like. Whether they want to be a singer, a writer, a YouTuber, maybe they want to go deeper into a job. Those students would need the time to do that. And I feel like if you can balance common core, especially for those young kids, with things that they're passionate about learning, then I would say you would greatly prepare your child for later on. But I would say up until like 4th grade, I don't believe common core is needed. I think the child can just go directly into learning what they want to learn in homeschool. And other than that, in my opinion, I see no other benefits to public school. And you'll find that a lot of the stuff that I listed, homeschool can already take care of that itself. This is not to say that I hated public school. Like, I was in it for 9 years straight. I loved all my teachers. I loved the subjects. I loved learning. It just wasn't things that I was passionate about, if that makes any sense. Like math, science, language arts, social studies, they're great. But in the real world, those things will be dated very quickly, especially with ChatGPT and the rise of AI and information constantly developing. Students won't be able to keep up in the next 5 years if they don't get into AI right now. They will be left behind. And in public school, at least from what I know, I don't see them teaching AI heavily, which is gonna soon replace many jobs if people don't get on the right side of the movement. Nowadays, many teens and kids are making millions from the internet just from doing what they love, and they didn't necessarily need school to do that. And that brings me to my last point. How can homeschooling help you become an entrepreneur? Because it's easy to say that homeschooling gives you the time to explore your passion, but how do you create a curriculum and a schedule around that? And how do you track progress? And my answer to this is very simple. Trust your kids as much as you would trust an adult. Now, I know this might sound very crazy at first, but let me explain. Sooner or later, your kids will become teenagers, and if they're not already, they'll become adults. But why wait until they're adults? Why not treat them like adults now? Now, that's not to say bombard them with a bunch of responsibilities. It means just ease them into it. Ease them into the lifestyle of being a mature, well-respected adult. And what would a well-respected adult do if they were starting their own business? And once you start thinking about that, they can start their lives now. They don't have to wait until they graduate. For example, I'm pulling my kid out of public school. They want to be a singer and sell albums online. Well, they have to train to become a singer, right? Just like every other adult who wants to become a singer. So just treat them the same way. Same thing with an author. They can become an author right now, so long as you instill the discipline to tell the kid to write and give them, I would say, homework. I wouldn't call it homework assignments, more like goals for themselves. As long as you set goals for them and tell them to complete a certain amount of pages and create a structured program around writing a book with a deadline attached to it, they will start developing the skills to become an author right now. And this can be done with any type of profession, only you're doing this at a younger age. A lot of times I think we underestimate what kids can do, especially if they're given the right tools and the right environment and the right resources. And I feel like homeschooling really explores that potential without the school system already placing a ceiling above their heads. And whether it's money or whether it's just freedom to do what they want, or whether it's just joy in general or family, homeschool allows you to choose what it is that you want without being suppressed by a system. And that is why, to answer the first question, is homeschooling better than public school? I feel that homeschooling is significantly better than public school. Between the time, the investment in the child's skills, the ability to socialize even further through traveling and homeschool groups and homeschool co-ops, unlimited learning and potential, and more support from the parents, their mom and dad. I feel like homeschooling really supports the child in almost every single way that they need, if you can structure it right while allowing the child to grow. And that's my answer to that question. And by no means is homeschool perfect, but I feel like it's a better solution to this world that we're living in. Between the teachers quitting and AI becoming more and more advanced, I feel like it's becoming more necessary for parents to take their child's education into their own hands and to instill values that they believe in. So that's why I think homeschool is better than public school.